possibility, but also
Attention! Hello.
very much interested.
We're starting up now.
Okay, I'm done.
Jim's going to come up and lead us in prayer, and Larry's going to lead us in a salute to the flag, which is currently standing over there.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you that we live in a free country. Lord, we realize that, God, if we don't act, we're going to lose a lot of those freedoms. I pray you'd help us to do that. Lord, these are important elections coming up. I pray that, Lord, people would get involved and understand that, Lord, what they do today will protect their grandchildren later on. We thank you for the opportunity to meet this morning. We thank you for the food that we've enjoyed. We pray that you take it and bless it to the nourishment of our body and our bodies for thy service. We ask it all in Christ's name, for his sake. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I'm glad you all could come out this morning. Back in our old spot, Ryan's. Local officials. Let's start off with, I don't see any legislators. Oh, yes we do. We have, Carl's one of those.
Senator Brock sends his regrets. It's his birthday. I told him whoop-de-doo. So,
12 or 13?
I think he may be 14 now, yeah. He's got 2 children, though, so I'm a little concerned. I have a question before I talk about what I do. I want to know where the candidates are. If they want the Republican nominee as a Republican, I sure would like to hear from them. And so the county commission candidates, I don't know. There's one here at least. 2. That's right, 2. I forgot about Jersey Joe. He's gonna beat me up now. But they want the nomination of the Republican Party, but they don't want to talk to the Republicans. I got a problem with that. And you know the problem we've got with people going to unaffiliated to get in our primaries. And some of you think that the legislature can change that, and we can't. It's the NCGOP. So I'm making suggestions. Cabarrus County is going to do it. They're drafting a resolution to go to the NCGOP to go back to closed primaries. There's good and bad. I understand. You don't want to miff all the unaffiliateds, but there are an awful lot. When Ralph Walton wrote a letter to the editor the other day and told people to do that, if that didn't open up everybody's eyes, I don't know what will. Cabarrus County, same thing's going on. Had the principal, Concord High School, Thursday, put out a message about doing the same thing while they were registering kids to vote at Concord High School, telling them to do the same thing, go to unaffiliated so we can change this county commission. They're going through the same things in Cabarrus County we are here. With that being said, my job is getting ready to go back into overdrive. I told somebody yesterday that it's actually easier when we're in session than when we're not. There's a lot more things going on. I got 2 counties running back and forth. And I did want to apologize because I have missed 2 or 3 events in the last 3 weeks. And part of that has to do with what's going on in my business. On that day of the ice storm, we took a major hit, electric spike into the building. And at first we thought it did a couple $1,000s worth of damage. Ended up being about $22,000 worth of damage. There's no insurance because of the way it happened. And we're trying to come along with that. It hit my main on-air computer. So the backup's working now, but that's bad because the backup is it. Did have 2, now it's down to 1. So that's why I've missed a couple of things in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But this thing I saw come out yesterday was NCDOT about charging you a per mileage tax. First of all, that's coming from them. Keep in mind the legislature is not in session. We hadn't discussed it, much less voted on it. I'm not going to vote for it. I know where it's coming from. We are all using less gasoline over the last few years. We've seen it go down, 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 down in North Carolina. So that means less gas tax. That means less money for the NCDOT. So the money's got to come from somewhere. Now, we did stop the bleeding on the Highway Trust Fund because the Democrats were spending it on everything but highways. So that's down to about only 10% of it being spent outside of highways, and that 10% is going to like the highway patrol. So I can live with that and the things that they do. So that's going to be discussed in the coming weeks, I'm sure, and trying to figure out other ways to pay for our roads. I think the money's there now, just like I do with education. I think the money's there now. It's just being misspent. I said this yesterday at a chamber meeting in Cabarrus County, and you can see the educators in the audience start shaking their heads. But we've got too much money in the top, at the Department of Public Instruction and in all the school central offices, and not enough in the classroom where it belongs. Amen. And that's the God's honest truth. Now, to get it from there to here, that's the nightmare, because you're dealing with a strong, strong group with this NCAE and all these other educators. What the teachers don't understand is we're trying to help them. And we're trying to help most of all the kids. But it's those at the top that keep that from being spent. The number of folks in the central office and in Raleigh has gone up 76% in the last 8 years. Number of teachers about 16%. So there's more and more money. Now, part of that is because federal regulations, and so they have to have all these pencil pushers to do all this new paperwork. That's why you got 3 assistant principals and 14 assistant superintendents and all this stuff. Even with almost 2,000 less students in Rowan and Salisbury, we have more in the central office than we did when we had 2,000 more students. So therein lies the problem. And I don't think that problem's going to go down. You got South Rowan High School. They got half the amount of students now as they did 7 years ago. They still have the same amount of principals, assistant principals. Why? Why? I don't understand that. A lot of things going on. Yes, ma'am.
You got to also understand, in the school buildings, there's a lot of waste. They start program after program after program, and they don't even give the programs a chance to work.
Right.
And so there's a lot of waste right there, because it's like, this year we're doing this, and then the principal wants to look good or whatever, so we're going to try this program now. We've got programs coming at us from every which direction.
And see, I wish that would stop. It is always changing. I mean, to me, 2 + 2 is still 4. What's changed? History hasn't changed. But they keep changing all this stuff, all these standards. It's just only, and I think, my personal opinion, it's called job security for those that are up here. Because as long as you got all these changes happening, somebody's got to be in charge of it. Yes, sir.
Per mileage tax, wouldn't they have to put something on your vehicle to track your mileage?
Exactly, GPS. That's what they talk about in the press release.
No, every year when you have your vehicle inspected, they take the mileage down.
Yeah.
And that's when they would hit you, is once a year.
If you drive 2,000 miles a year in South Carolina.
Well, they don't care.
They don't care.
They still want their
I don't think it's going to happen, but it has been talked about this week, and we're catching the blame, and we're not even in session. Hadn't been discussed by one legislator that I know of. But it comes from the DOT and the administration this week. I think they're getting that out there to test the waters, and I think they don't like the test results that are coming back. So that's what's going on.
When the time's right, Rowan Free Press is going to have a how-to on how to change your odometer and stuff like that. But anyway,
And I do have to leave just a little bit. We got the 8th Congressional District Convention today down in Albemarle.
okay. Thanks, Carl.
Yes.
Next up, county commissioners. Who wants to go for it? Okay. They point at each other.
Two things I want to talk about. One is the schools. We have a vote Monday. We're going to vote on a memorandum of understanding that our attorney has prepared. If you don't understand what's taken place recently, we had a joint meeting with the school board. We voted to give them $40.5 million. Their lawyer drew up a memorandum of understanding with about 8 or 9 pages, just a bunch of legalese in there that they want to use at some point in time when they take us to court. They wanted it in there stating that we agreed that they had this need, we agreed they had that need. I said, look, we voted to give you the $40.5 million. We voted to give you a funding schedule for that. That's the only thing we want in the memorandum of understanding. Our lawyer was in the process of drawing that up. Their lawyer got involved, redrew it, He took that memorandum of understanding, took the school board, had them go ahead and vote on it, and then sent it, gave it to us as a signed copy. That's getting the cart before the horse. It was our agreement. We said we would write it up. So that's what we're voting on Monday night. I hope the school board will accept it and move on. They have come forward and asked for $3.2 million additional money. Folks, I just don't understand where they think all this money's coming from. The county commissioners have $99 million that we control. $51 million goes into education every year. The answer has got to come from the legislature to stop the madness to where boards of education can sue boards of county commissioners. As far as the election goes, I don't care who runs. I don't care how many run. I don't care who runs against me. I'm not running against anybody. I'm just running to get reelected. I'm running on my record. What does bother me is that so many people are running not because they have solutions to the problems in Rowan County or because they're going to fix this and fix that. They're running for one reason, and that's to get me out of office. So I need your vote in May. This is a very important election. If you don't keep a conservative voice on that board, you've got 2 conservative commissioners now. You need to keep a conservative majority. I'm telling you, tax rate will go to 70 cents quicker than you can blink your eye. You better keep some conservatives on that board. If you don't, your taxes are going up because everybody is asking for more money. If we looked at the county budget request, I believe 2 years ago, the county employees asked for $13 million more in an expansion budget than what was budgeted the year before. I think we gave them $400,000. So the $13 million evidently wasn't needed because we're still able to provide the services, and we only gave them $400,000. But there's a lot of competition out there for the dollars. If you don't keep a conservative board, your taxes are going up. You're going to be looking at a 70-cent tax rate quicker than you can blink an eye. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First thing I'd like to do is thank Tom Harrell for what he's done for the veterans. Starting Tuesday, we'll have a session with the veterans out at Thelma's with free coffee and donuts. And Tom talked to me about this 2 or 3 months ago, has spearheaded it and made this happen. Everybody needs to give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
The next thing, I came this morning loaded for bear. I wanted every county commission candidate to be here because I was going to just chastise every one of them. There are only 2 people to me that deserve to be a commissioner in this room today, and that's Jim and Joe. I am sick and tired of all these people talking about education, 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 and every commissioner knows there's nothing that we can do about education except put more money in it, more money in it, more money in it. If they care so much about education, they need to run for the school board. That's where the problem lies right now. When you've got a chairman of the school board that's an NAE director, which means his job is to keep as many teachers on the payroll as possible and won't even consider consolidating an elementary school that we have voted to spend $22 million to build a new school. And when they come with their proposal, they said, no, you're not going to tell us that we have to build a consolidated school. 285 students in one school, 325 in another. Why would you want to spend $32 million to build 2 schools to house 600 children? It's ridiculous. But for him, that means more principals, more teachers, more assistant principals, everything else. We saw at the school board come up, they want a county athletic director. I don't know how in the world we've survived without a county athletic director since we've had state championship after state championship after state championship across the board in all schools and all different types of football, basketball, golf, tennis, track. North Rowan has had 17 track state championships out of the last 21 years. Why we need an $80,000 athletic director, I don't know. All of a sudden now they want to have 6 nurses for the schools. How did we ever manage without them? I mean, when I went to school 40-some years ago, we didn't have a nurse. If you fell down, skinned your knee, you went to the office, I put a Band-Aid on. If you were bad, they sent you home. So the school doesn't have an answer for anything except give us more money. Well, I calculated the other night just to see where we would be. Jim's wrong, it won't be 70 cents. If we did everything that the schools want us to do, if we did everything everybody else wants us to do, our tax rate would be 85 cents. So it's time to just draw the line and say, hey, if you want to take us to court, take us to court. Because somebody needs to tell you. We've been telling them, they won't listen. The taxpayers told them when Mike Caskey and I got elected, we campaigned on the fact we would not put the central office downtown at 329 South Main. We had the largest turnout in history. Both of us pulled almost 37,000 votes. Prior to that, Carl had the most votes ever, 29,997. Isn't that right? So 7,000 more people came out and voted for me and Mike on that issue. And yet, now that we've offered them $40 million in capital improvement, their answer to that is, oh, well, why are you writing the check? We need 3.5 more this year. Well, I'm sorry, folks, it's not going to happen. I made up my mind the other day, and I've told every county commissioner I am not running for re-election for one very important reason. Number one, there's no candidates other than these two gentlemen here that's worth a flip. The rest of them are all doing that talk that they can't back up. I want somebody that comes and says, I've got a solution on how to fix things. Second reason I'm not running is because the only way I'm going to get things accomplished is to start making waves and start doing the things that the commissioners need to have been doing for the past 2 decades. We aren't going to be able to take care of this county if we keep trying to pacify everybody just so we can get reelected. So I've made up my mind. I've got 30 more months. You're going to see my name in the paper a bunch because I'm going to stir it up hard. And if we don't have candidates that are willing to do that, I don't want them sitting in them 5 chairs with me. I'm sick of it. I've got one that sits beside me now. He might as well be on the Salisbury City Council. Why he's not in jail, I don't know, but that's where he needs to be. But I am going to make it my point for the next 2.5 years. I'm going to make the changes that we need to do, and I need these two gentlemen right here with me. So vote for Joe, vote for Jim, and if you don't have, if nothing else, don't vote for anybody else but these two gentlemen. Because I can trust these guys. They say what they mean what they say. The rest of them are walking the fence and telling you what you want to hear just to get elected. Like Steve Buck told me one time, he said, Craig, just tell them what you want to hear, then once you get elected, you do what you want to. Well, I'm sorry, that's not the way I do things. So, they're all different, but to answer your question, this is something a lot of people don't know. The reason you see Charlotte being able to grow like it has is because every municipality in Charlotte is in the county, of course, but every parcel in the county is inside a municipality, so they're double taxed on every. If you live in Mecklenburg County, you're double taxed, period. So if I had 62.5 and then the 62 that Salisbury has, I could do a lot of things for the county. But we don't have that, and we're trying our best not to have to raise taxes any more than we have to. But the tax increase is coming. You need to get ready for it. We can't keep giving the schools and keeping our county employees and doing the things that we need to do for the county at the current rate. It just can't happen.
Well, is it true that our tax rate is higher than Iredell County?
It is. But
Yes,
what,
but Iredell County's got countywide water and sewer, and that's why there's 29 cents. But Cabarrus is 7.
and the other thing you got to look at too, Davie County is lower than we are. But the majority of Davie County is in Moxville. So Moxville has their city tax rate. And Moxville, unlike Salisbury, shares their money to get things done in the county. When they had Gildan come over there, Moxville itself wrote them a $5 million check. Borrowed the money and paid them for their incentive to come there. You think Salisbury put any money into Gildan? Of course not. They can't pay their own bills. That's the problem. But you're going to see some changes. And I've told Jim and I've told every commissioner, at budget session, the first thing I'm going to do is ask for a feasibility study for county water and sewer. It doesn't do us any good to widen I-85 and put an interchange down at Old Ladies Ford Road if we don't put the infrastructure in to support manufacturing and industrial facilities. It's ridiculous to think that somebody's gonna come out there and buy 20 acres of land and use 10 acres of it for septic fields. It's not gonna happen. So until we step up and do the things that we need to do and make a countywide water authority in this county, we're not gonna grow because it costs too much to be here. So when you raise your tax rate and you don't put infrastructure in like Salisbury has been so good to do for us, then we're not going to grow. Salisbury has us by the throat because they control the water and sewer. They don't have any money because they've dumped it all into fiber. So therefore, we can't provide the infrastructure in the rest of the county to grow this county. So the county's going to have to step up and do it ourselves. And thank goodness we got somebody like Carl Ford that will stand up and take a firm stand and say, I'm going to do what I can for my district to make sure that it grows. I can't say that about the others in District 77. I can say that about Andrew Rock. I talked to him face to face. He said, I'll do whatever it takes if that's what y'all want to do. So we've got some problems with our local delegation that we need to address. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's time for a change. And it's time to change it right now. So I'm not getting behind any candidates except this gentleman and Jim Sides. I've worked with Jim. A lot of people don't like what he says. They say that I'm Jim's clone, that I'm his yes man. I take it as a compliment because if I knew as much as he did about how to fix the problems, we wouldn't have these problems. But we need to get out behind our good Republican representatives and we need to put them in office. And we need to make sure that this next election that we have people that are going to go into office and do something besides worry about getting reelected. And that's what you've got with all the other county commissioner candidates. Number one, they don't know the facts, they're campaigning on the wrong issues, and when they get in there, they're going to do whatever the city of Salisbury tells them.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to hear from some candidates. We have a candidate here for 12th District Congress. This is Mr.
The rules of militaries make sure you put the people in front of you. But I'm Leon Threek. I'm running for the 12th District U.S. House of Representatives. That runs from Charlotte-Mecklenburg all the way to Guilford County. And I'm running against Vince Copley for the Republican nomination. Vince is a good man. I like what I see. I like what I hear. But I believe one of the things I want to communicate with you, and I thank you for the opportunity to come in and just share a little of what's on my heart, is that I don't want us to give up on the 12th District. The 12th District is 84% Democrat, but I really believe that we can take the 12th District. I think for the first time in 20 plus years, we're positioned with Mr. Mel Watt not being there, an incumbent of that kind of engagement and involvement. I think we're better positioned now than we've ever been able to take the 12th District back, take it and bring it in under the Republican ticket. And so I think one of the things we need to be thinking about is how do we win this seat? And I think I have what it takes to really press this. Part of what I'm believing that I can do is that I can possibly draw a number of those votes that are generally Democrat, because I think, without question, I know the issues. And I think if we can inform, communicate, and advise the 12th District, many of those ones who vote generally for a Democrat, I believe we will be able to gain that seat. And so I want to encourage you to think about how important the 12th District is. We don't have a great amount of space in the U.S. House to just let the 12th District go. We're only about 3 seats to the plus for the Republican Party in the House, and we can't sacrifice any district. I'm presently serving in Charlotte-Mecklenburg as a senior pastor. I've worked in that 12th District as my church is there. I've been involved in the 12th District, either lived in, worked in, or served in the 12th District for 40 years. I'm a former Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officer for 8.5 years. I'm a former active duty Marine for 10 years. I've been involved in my community, been involved in this state. I'm involved to bring answers. I believe I have solutions. I am a committed conservative Republican. I believe in smaller government. I really think, to make this really clear, our nation is in a very challenging place. changes. And if we don't make some changes soon, from the top all the way down, prayerfully even down up, then we're not going to have the liberties and the freedoms that we so enjoy today. There are things that are transpiring, as I've certainly heard from many of you today, just listening to you. I believe that you are concerned about our nation as well. And if we don't make some changes, if we don't have a strong Congress that will stand for the American values that make this nation great, I think we're going to lose some things. And the things we take for granted, we're going to see these liberties continue to be eroded. So I think we need strong conservative leadership in Congress, and it needs to work its way all the way through the state and certainly to the local level. I think I bring that kind of commitment. Someone asked recently, why would I do this? Why am I doing this? Well, I have 2 grandchildren. And that in itself is enough to give my very best. I'm very content with what I'm doing as a pastor and involved in my community. But there comes a point that you can no longer just sit back and watch what you love being lost. If you've been in the private military, you understand there's a mindset that says we're not going to lose it on my watch. On my watch, we're going to stay on post. And I'm concerned that we're going to lose the liberties that I enjoy and that was entrusted to me and to my generation. I'm concerned that we're going to lose it on my watch, and that concerns me. And so I need your support, I need your vote, I need your voice to take your voice to Washington. I believe that not only by getting the Republican nomination, I believe we can get the vote in November. I believe we can take this seat. You have 2 choices. You have the choices of 2 good men. I believe Vince Copley is a great candidate. I think he'll do a wonderful job. I just think that I'll do a little bit better. I believe I have the convictions, the commitment, the dedication to walk this thing out to the finish. And one of the things I say is this is not the end of it. This is just the beginning of it for me. So if we don't get the Republican nomination, we're still involved. We're still concerned about what's happening in this county and what's happening throughout the 12th district. So vote3.com is where you can find more information about our candidacy and our campaign. And so I certainly appreciate your vote. And if you have any questions, if I could ask anyone have any questions about what we're doing? Yes, sir.
I appreciate your service. Are you an Oath Keeper member?
I'm sorry?
Are you a member of Oath Keepers?
Oath Keepers. No, I'm not, but I'm certainly listening and reading some things and talking to some about that very thing. I am a gun carrier. I believe in the Second Amendment strongly. I think that should be preserved for all the right reasons. And so I think that's a liberty and a freedom that we should never compromise on. So, yes. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What 3 things would you change if Vince does get the nomination for your campaign?
I will support him. I had the opportunity of sitting down and talking to Vince. I did not know him personally before this campaign began. He and I had a nice dinner meeting, and we sat down for hours, and we spent more time talking about the Lord and about what we wanted to see in our nation than anything else. We're on the same sheet of music. Yes, I certainly will do all I can to support the Republican nomination and to help win this seat in November. I think we've got to do this.
What 3 things would you
Well,
change?
3 important things is I would certainly want to be a voice in Washington for conservative Christian values. I think one of the first things, and I will not apologize for this, but I will work, and I am working diligently to protect the sanctity of human life. I think that is in the Declaration of Independence. One of the first things, unalienable rights, is for life. And it's amazing how we can miss that first and foremost. And secondly, I think we need to continue to shrink federal government. Many of the things that we're doing belongs in the state. And federal government is taking control of things that belongs to the state. I would be one of the very urgent issues is to defund and to repeal Obamacare. This is a federal takeover. This is not about health care. It has nothing to do with health care. It's about government takeover. There's a provision in the Obama health care, and if you would really want to just go look at this, there's a provision in there that gives the 15 to 17 members decisions over total health care on what you can get and cannot get. And if we don't stop this, it will become permanent law and cannot be repealed after 2017. A permanent law that Congress cannot repeal and change in 2017. How can there ever be anything that the people cannot change? And we can change the Constitution. How can we not change a portion of the Obamacare? So we've got to get in there and immediately. It's disappointing to see that the Republican Party did not come together and immediately defund the Obamacare. Congress is the one that funds it. And all they had to do was to come together and say, we'll not give one dime for it, and it has to shut down. So that will be one of the second major points that we'll get in there and work to try to undo is the mess of Obamacare. You can't fix it. It cannot be repaired. It has to be removed, repealed, and defunded immediately. And then I think from the educational standpoint, I think the Department of Education shouldn't need to exist. It belongs in the state. Education is a state issue. It's not a federal issue, it's a state issue. So those are just a few of the urgent concerns. Anything that moves to Washington, we have less say over. Any rights or departments that move to Washington, you and I have less say over. It belongs in the state, and it belongs in the hands of the people of North Carolina and throughout the nation. So those are just a few things that I'm committed to. If you want to see some of the other details that we're looking at vote3.com, and it tells you our convictions on a number of issues. But those are some of the top ones. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask you about Common Core, but since you were talking about the Department of Education going away, that pretty much takes care of
again,
that.
government
I also
takeover.
like that you didn't put replace in with the Obamacare.
Can't fix it.
Yes.
Can't fix it. You've got to. Health care again belongs in the states. Education belongs in the states. It's not federal. It's ultimately it's government control. It's government taking over, and that concerns me. The rights of the people belong in the states, so that we can vote over issues that matter to our life and our way of life. And so I think it's a great concern about how everything is moving to Washington, giving it into the hands of a few bureaucrats. Recently, I heard about a book that Sue Myrick wrote, talking about how Congress is not working. It's not working, and that concerns me. That when Congress is not working, your vote and your influence is not working. The idea behind Congress was that you had say. You re-elect or rehire your congressman every 2 years. And if he or she doesn't do their job, you fire them. Well, when it's not working, then your voice in Washington is not working. So we've got to get Congress working again, because that's your vote, that's your representation. Thank you for your time. I would stay forever, but my daughter gets married in a few hours, and so you see how important you are. When I told my daughter I'm going to a meeting, and she's like, "You're going where? My wedding date?" Yeah, I just want to go anyway. So, but I will have to leave shortly. But I thank you for the opportunity. You know, Rowan County and the counties between Mecklenburg and Guilford County often get missed. And I have to apologize that I haven't had the privilege of being in circles and in groups like this, but I think you're talking about the right things. I'm hearing the right things, and that's encouraging. And that kind of clarity and conservative approach to politics and life belongs in Washington, and we're not getting that. And someone asked me recently, when you get to Washington, I'm concerned that you'll change. Well, one of the first things is you never get an office, you never get a house or an apartment in Washington, D.C. You visit Washington, you live here in your state. And that's one of the mistakes that many of them make. They start living there and forget that this is where they belong. And so I want to stay connected to the values of North Carolina, and certainly throughout the 12th District, because this is my home. Washington will never be my home. I was stationed near Washington in Baltimore a number of years ago, and it's a place to visit, but you don't want to live there. So this is important to me. Do you have another question?
The Congressional Budget Act 1974. What's your opinion on the autopilot that's causing growth in government?
That's part of the problem. Something that runs consecutively without examination. Government is too big, period. And then you begin what we're seeing as a bureaucracy to keep that system running. And we need to re-examine the budget. It's the bottom line budgeting, that everything needs to be budgeted accordingly, and if it's not working, if it's not supporting the systems and the values that we hold, we need to remove those issues off of the budget. And you know, I think President Reagan tried to establish line item veto, and that he can not only veto issues but also eliminate budgets. It never got through the Congress. It needs to be there. You need leaders, Congress certainly, but we need to be able to budget accordingly and bottom line budgeting where items are removed from the budget instead of this huge package and everything goes and they put all the pork in it. This system needs to be changed. It's not working, and I think part of the problem is that assumption that it's one package or no package. And many of our good leaders are having to vote on things and approve things that they don't want in there. I was listening to someone the other day who was saying that one of our congressmen had to vote for the Obama spending to continue because the government was shut down. They couldn't not vote because the American people says we can't have the government shut down, but the problem was it needed to stay shut down until Obamacare got out of it. But we need to be able to mark through certain aspects of the budget and then vote accordingly. Yes, sir.
Quick yes or no. For a good comparison, are we going to have the opportunity for you and Vince to debate?
Yes, there's in fact, I think there's one in Rowan County on, I'm thinking next Tuesday night. There's a couple of, if it's not the 9th, it's maybe the 29th. I'm trying to.
25th.
Did they confirm for the 25th?
I thought
But yes, there is going to be one in Rowan County real soon. I think, I'm trying to confirm the date, but I think if it's not in Rowan County, it's going to be in Cornelius.
I think there's an upcoming one at Livingston College.
Livingston on 25th at 10 a.m.
Maybe they didn't invite me to that one. Thanks for telling me that's there. But I think there is one real close, real soon. Yes, yes, ma'am. The fair tax. I think we need to establish that kind of taxing system in North Carolina. That I think our present tax in North Carolina is, and we certainly can hear from that, it's multi-taxed. And I mean, we're getting taxed on every end because most states either have an income tax or a sales tax. We have income tax, sales tax, gas tax, multi levels of taxes. And I think we need a simpler, fair tax approach instead of the multi-tax. And it looks like it's not hitting you hard, but when you put it all together, we're probably one of the most taxed states, certainly in the Southeast, but probably throughout this region. And because of that, so I think a fair tax approach is the right approach. I don't think we have a tax problem. I think we have a spending problem. And just like I can't spend, frivolously, I don't think our federal government or our state government needs to continue to do what it's doing. If we don't stop the spending, it doesn't matter how much taxes we collect. We're going to still need more. And so the problem is spending. The problem is waste. And, if you run your home like that, you get under a bridge after several years because you can't keep up that way. And so I think we need to stop the bleeding by stopping the spending, and we need leaders that will represent the people to say no more taxes. You're not going to get any more. And we need judges that will back up that kind of legislation. Part of what we're seeing is that we're starting to see more and more judges that are inputting and changing the rules and changing things. So I want to challenge you to vote for judges that are conservative as well. And I know our judges are not generally partisan. You will not see them on the ballot, but you need to know what they believe, because if we can vote and elect good, sound legislators and county commissioners, but we get the wrong judge in there, they'll overturn it by just a pen stroke, and then all of our hard work has been lost. Virginia, their marriage amendment is being challenged, constitutional amendment. And I assure you, at some point, I'm concerned that they will challenge North Carolina's constitutional marriage amendment. And all it takes is the wrong judge to overturn with the people. I can't understand how can anyone think that a constitutional amendment can become unconstitutional. We determine the Constitution. If we change and make an amendment that marriage is between one man and one woman, then that's constitutional. How can a judge overturn what the people say? That's a concern. That we have judges that are really they're advocates for the extreme left, and so we've got to vote for strong conservative judges as well. Again, thank you for your time. I'm going to leave it to my cards, and again, I certainly need from you more than anything else your prayers. And if you'll pray for me, then I believe without question God's outcome will turn out the right way. And either way, I'm in support of the Republican nomination, and I'll be behind whoever wins that, and that's between now and November and then and beyond. And this will not be the last time you see me, but thank you for your time. Thank you.
Next up. Well, North Carolina Joe.
Well, it's nice to see the same people over and over again. My name is Joe Colaborsi, if you don't know that already. I'm running for county commissioner, and I need all the help I can get. I have signs outside, I have bumper stickers over here. I need people to know where I stand. I kind of wear what I say right on my sleeve. You can go to Joe for Rowan and read everything I've written. That way you know exactly what I'm saying. I don't sit on a fence. I pretty much jump on top of something with both big feet. Anyone have any questions as to where I stand? I'd be happy to answer it. Otherwise, for example, I'm a member of the planning board, and we just passed on to the county commissioners to allow gun concealed carry in our parks and our public buildings. We're following the rules that the state has changed. We're coordinating with the state so that we have the same rules. I wrote an editorial, I gave it to the Rowan Free Press, and I gave it to the Post. The Post informs me that they will not print any of my editorials because I'm a candidate. So I assume the Post does not want people to know what our candidates think. It's a very interesting concept. I've never heard of an editorial board not wanting to hear from a candidate. So,
Keep people nice and eager.
well, that's part of what I'm trying to say.
They like
You write a position paper, it should be printed. That way people know where you're coming from. I'd like to hear some of the reasons why the only people in this entire county that wear horns are our county commissioners. I've never seen an interview of the chairman of the school board. He's an elected official, just like Jim Sides is an elected official, yet no one asked the questions. My other editorial, again, in the Free Press, Rowan Free Press. Why isn't somebody asking, why North Main Street? Who owns the land? How much are you going to actually spend? Does it include 200 parking spaces? No one asked those questions, but they want to know, why did you buy the mall? They want to put out false information about it. Knowledge is power. Sharing information with the community is the only way for the community to understand. So I write everything I believe down, and I ask people like the Rowan Free Press to print it. You can go to joeforrowan.com and you can read anything I've written. So that's where I stand. I need your vote. The county commissioners are good, solid people. The people that run our schools are good people. They just have had a failing system for 20 years. And no one has made them accountable for their failures. It's an embarrassment that our school system is 97th in the state of North Carolina out of 115 school systems, and yet their answer is, we need more money. You need to help in the future. We have a fellow by the name of Clucky who's going to be running for school board, and you need to help him. We need to stand together and get good, honest people that will work together. Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, I guess you already know where I stand, so thank you.
We have one more candidate here for sheriff. Mr. Keever.
We have two more candidates.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Sandy.
This is Jan.
Sandy, you
I'm
want to
sorry.
go?
I didn't see you over there.
You sure? I see some new faces. My name's Brian Keever. I started in law enforcement at the age 16 with the New York City Auxiliary Police Department. I started working for Rowan County Sheriff's in the detention center, trying to grow a police department, then the feds for about 2002 and on to 2010 when I retired after an injury. I heard so many stories, I just don't know where to go with everybody, what to tell you or how to explain what's going on. Our crime rate in the county is ferocious. It's out the window. Each and every year, you suffer a burglary at your home. 500 victims a year, 500 burglaries. Times that by an average family of 4, you're looking at around 2,000 people become victims in our county each and every year because the job's not being done. Just recently in the newspaper, Sheriff Rowan put in there that he said, we're hiring additional police officers because we have a grant. Well, Sheriff Rowan waited 4 years to get you that money. Now, I wouldn't have waited 4 years. My kids, your kids, they're more important to me. I want to see cops in the school vet. I'm not going to wait for a grant to come in to protect our kids. That's ridiculous. It's like taking betting games with our children's lives. It don't work that way. Each year he wastes $1 million of your tax dollars. $1 million, give or take maybe 5%. He could have paid for those officers in the school. But instead, he waited for a grant. He's giving them patrol cars, giving them everything they need. But what he's not telling you, when that grant runs out, you're paying the bill. That means he's going to go to the county commissioners and say, look, I need more money to operate my department. But he's not going to tell you any of that. You're footing the bill. I can guarantee I can reduce the crime in Rowan County by 50% across the board within 2 years. I can guarantee I can decrease the drug activity by 65% within 2 years. But now, please understand, that's a ballpark. The training I have clearly tells me you cannot reduce the crime to a certain number. It's not going to happen. That number may go up to 70%. It may go down to 50%. So we're talking a ballpark number. Now, I don't know much more to tell you than what you already see and what you know. I'll make a difference in Rowan County. I don't play no games. I get on everybody's nerves. I step on toes. I really don't care. The city of Salisbury is hurting. They don't have a law enforcement agency anymore as far as I'm concerned. They're not doing anything. We need to take action in the city of Salisbury and help clean that up, because if we don't, it comes out into the county. Just like Charlotte, Mecklenburg, their crime rate is being pushed out to Concord. Concord's pushing it out to us, and we're getting stuck with the bill. So I don't know much more to cover. You already see the crime in there. You know what needs to be done, and I'll take care of that. So I'm usually better with questions than answers. So if anybody's got questions.
Brian, how do you feel about the militarization of the police departments and sheriff's departments by the federal government? They give them all these military toys and play with. We're seeing a rash of like warrantless searches, homes been bursted in. It's like 30,000 examples last year across the country where police just brutally burst in on the wrong home, and this thing's, in my opinion, out of control. How do you feel about it?
I don't think government, federal government should be involved in any local law enforcement agency. As far as I'm concerned, if they came into Rowan County and take away your rights, it's not going to happen. I won't let them take away your guns. I won't let them take away your constitutional rights, your first, your fourth, your fifth. It's not going to happen. I work for the feds, so I know what they're going to do, and I know how I can stop them dead in their tracks. I don't agree with them buying ammunition. I don't agree with them giving police departments these armored vehicles for what? What kind of message are you sending to people? I'm going to come to your house and go through the wall to get to you for something silly, something stupid that could have been resolved by a phone call, or could have been resolved by negotiation. I don't agree with it. I think it's a terrible time to be in law enforcement because so many things are just being misconstrued.
You said you retired after you had injury. Retired what? What type of injury did you have?
I was working for the federal government over in the United Kingdom, working with another law enforcement agency there, and I suffered an injury which I can't discuss because of the classification. That retired me out. I was under medical care for quite a few years, and Sandy knows me pretty well because I used to go into the doctor all the time, and it took me about 3 years to recover fully to where I get back on my feet after this injury, but that was near with a terrorist
Why did you go back
cell.
to work for that agency rather than claim disability? Is that what you claimed?
They put me on disability. I didn't ask for it because one position that I need to fulfill, I can't fulfill. So then they have to retire you out. I had 2 other job offers with the DEA and the Marshal Service, but they put a freeze on it, so I couldn't get my foot back in that door.
This disability disqualify you from being sheriff?
No, it don't. It does not. If you're talking about the certain federal acts, it does not disqualify me, no.
If you can't tell us what type of disability you have, I have some real serious questions, but I'm sorry.
Well, what are you looking to hear? I mean,
I want to make sure that you're physically and mentally capable of fulfilling the job as sheriff in Rowan County. And if you won't tell us what your disability was, I've got questions.
this is from the federal government. They don't give these out unless you're physically capable of carrying a firearm in the United States.
So why did you resign then or retire?
I didn't resign. I had to retire because one position that the job requires couldn't be fulfilled. One of the things I have is a blood disorder, which prevents me from flying. So I can't get over to the UK, to Europe, and all these places. And once that happens, they retire you.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, you know, I'd like to tell you more, but I'm restricted on what I can say because of national security and other things, so I really can't tell you. And that's bad for me, but I have to go by that. I have to protect people. Anybody else?
I'd like to say thank you that you would consider the Constitution and protecting us. I remember 4 years ago, we asked a question, if the federal government would come in and violate our rights, what would the sheriff, this was I wasn't there, it was posted on the website. What would they do? And they said the federal, there's nothing we can do. It's the federal government. So the local sheriff is the most powerful form of government. Would anybody agree? According to the Constitution, it's up to you to protect me and my family against the federal government. And so, by you saying that you would defend us and use your resources to protect us from tyranny, I respect that. You have my support.
Well, I mean, think about it. If they come in here and they take away your Second Amendment rights, how long is it before they take away your First, your Fourth, your Fifth? You're not going to want the government coming in here and telling you what religion you can practice.
Our First Amendment, all the other rights. It's our Second Amendment right.
Well,
And the state had tried to take away our rights. The last government, didn't she? When there was a national disaster, there was a, what was it? Can anybody help me out here? There was a, tried to take away our gun rights from hurricane or something like that. Yeah. And went to the state Supreme Court.
What was that, over a year ago or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember. All I remember is I seen one of the gentlemen here posted it. That, actually, I think it was John Blair that posted it. Or actually, Rick Johnson. Where are you? Where's he? Anyway, but thank you.
Thanks.
What one thing would you change that you'd either implement or you would get rid of? What one thing is there one thing that you can think of that?
One thing, no. The whole department has to be restructured, refinanced. The whole thing's got to change. Our court system's got to change with our deputies inside. Our patrol has to change. Everything has to change. You just can't go in there and change one thing and expect something else. It's all got to change. Financially, it has to change because we're wasting too much money. Throwing away $1 million a year that can pay for additional deputies on the road to better serve and protect you.
Where's that $1 million for? I don't.
It's to what we needed for at that time. It could go to put more deputies in our school.
Where's it being wasted?
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
It's being wasted on all contract and employee salaries. Job positions that I don't know why they have them, they're not needed. Different divisions in the department that there's no sense to it. I'll give you an example. There's one department, you have a lieutenant, makes a $50-something a year salary. You have a sergeant, makes a $40-something a year salary. Then you have a patrol officer or a deputy, makes a 30-something. Add that all up. That's a nice chunk of change, but it only requires one person to do that job. Not 3 different people. It doesn't require a lieutenant, it doesn't require a sergeant.
Can you tell us what that?
That particular one is over training. Then you have another position that's over the hiring process, recruitment, retention, and so on. That's another department. Same situation there. It takes one person to run that department, not 3. You got a bunch of captains and lieutenants running around. One to take care of the court, one to take care of the jail, one to take care of patrol. I don't need all these people. It's ridiculous. They're spending money like it's going out of style.
All right. One more question. When you go in the courthouse, you've got 2 different, these Homeland Security machines, metal detectors, and 3 officers for each one. Is that really necessary? Is that part of the sheriff's department or not?
That was put there by the sheriff's department years ago. That was their idea. Basically, I guess Homeland Security came and talked to them about it and said you need security in your courthouses.
Are we paying for that, or is Homeland Security paying?
Homeland Security ain't paying for that. We're gonna pay for that. That metal detector, the one you see by the door, not the Main Street door, but the Liberty side, that detector's been in our custody since '92. It used to sit over in the detention center side, and we used to use that for people who come and visit that they would have to walk through.
Don't we now have 2 like that?
Now we have 2. And you paid for it. The X-ray machine, you paid for it. There might have been some grants to help out with the finances, but you paid for it. You paid for its upkeep, you paid for its maintenance, you paid for people to operate it. It's coming out of your pocket. It's the same thing with the money that's wasted. You don't need all these people running around doing these jobs when there's no reason for it. No reason whatsoever. I'm more concerned about putting people on the road, putting people in our schools, getting the drug teams out there doing something about it, not sitting around just twiddling their thumbs because I make a $60,000 a year salary and I sit in the office and I got these 2 guys doing my job. It's the same thing, what can you do until you get somebody in there that can do something?
Well, if you don't mind, do we really need those metal detectors? Do other counties have those?
Some counties do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Some
they do.
counties do, some counties
counties
don't,
do.
but they're getting it in because they feel it's a need. Do we feel it's a need? In today's society with the drug problem and everything, it's something we need to keep in mind, something we need to keep in place. Because who knows who's going to walk into the court with a gun, shoot a defendant, shoot a suspect, shoot a judge, shoot a prosecutor. We don't know. So the best way to do it is by having a machine, because we can't physically stand there and search everybody. So it's a good thing having it there. I mean, it may be somewhat of an invasion, but it's not an invasion like you get at the airport. Because I see those machines, they strip you down to nothing. And you definitely don't want that, and I don't want that. Especially if you can't determine the radiation level they're putting out to you and the government's hiding that level.
You need to clarify your statement about resource officers in the school. The reason that they weren't put in there, first of all, is the state took it away in 2009. It wasn't in the sheriff's budget, therefore he couldn't spend that money because the commissioner didn't okay it. He had to wait for the grant from the state to be able to have the money to pay for those resource officers, and it's a 2-year grant. And we looked at it as a commission before we would even okay it. The other thing, you made a mention that he's got patrol cars. Those patrol cars that are assigned to him came out of surplus. We didn't buy new patrol cars.
Those are 3 patrol cars that came out of surplus.
I know because I voted for it. So I know what I'm talking about here. So you need to be careful what you're saying and clarifying your points because you're making it sound like he's out here taking money and spending it that he's got control of. He doesn't have that control. The commissioners do. And we're the ones that passed that grant. We're the ones that gave him the patrol cars. So be careful about what you're saying.
So you have control over the sheriff?
Of course we do. We do his budget.
So when somebody has a complaint, it took him 3 hours to get to somebody's house to help them, what can you do?
What can I do? I can't do anything.
So how do you have control over the sheriff? Do you have control over his finances? Would
We
you
have
actually
control
act
over
on
his
his
budget.
finances and stop him from doing something?
We have control over his budget.
Would you take action on his budget to stop him from doing something he's not supposed to do, or to get him to do something?
I don't have a problem with our sheriff. I've never had a problem with our sheriff. I haven't seen you out in the community like Sheriff Alton is. I haven't seen you at the schools like Sheriff Alton has been. So you need to be careful what you
Sheriff
say.
Orton took 2 officers out of the schools in 2010 and said, we do not have the money to keep them in place. Would you agree with that?
Evidently, it's true.
Okay. How did he give those 2 officers a job, one in court, one running around as a gopher, if he didn't have the money? Why didn't he keep them in the school with the money he had to pay them there?
Because the money that he was using for that came from the state, which did away with those positions. That's why. And he had good officers that he didn't want to let go. That's what bothers me a little bit about what you're saying. You can't come in and just wholesale get rid of everybody. You know, you've got to keep the morale up in those departments, or you won't have anybody on patrol.
You know, you can look at it one way, I see it another way, what the people see it.
Yeah, I see it another way.
And people see it as, he could have kept them in the school and used the money he got from this other, whatever it's coming from, you or whatever, and kept them in the school instead of taking them out. There was no reason to take them out if he had resources to pay them to stay.
If he had the resources.
He's paying them.
He's paying them out of his budget, not the state.
Okay, so he has the resources to pay them, so he could have kept them in the school, could he not?
No.
Why not?
Evidently, you don't know how the system works. That's what I'm hearing.
I know how the system works. The government spent over $2 million training
I
me.
think you're sitting here making statements that you can't back up.
Oh, I could back them up. I wouldn't be here if I couldn't back them up. I could back them up. I could put deputies out on that road real quick. That's not hard. I could put them in our school real quick. That's not hard. You see one point of it for years the way it's been operating, because it hasn't been operating the way it should be.
I don't agree with that.
You have a right to agree to disagree. I'm not going to argue with the agreement disagreement. Huh?
So just remember, if you get elected, you're going to come to me with your budget. Just keep that in mind.
Well, I'll keep that in mind. I'll try to behave myself when I do that, but,
You're free to behave, but you're going to have to justify it.
well, I'll definitely justify it, but I won't be hitting you up for all that money he does. I can tell you that much right now.
Well, as long as you're taking care of the citizenry, that's my concern.
That's my concern too, because I have children. I like to see them protected. I have family, relatives, cousins here, that are born and raised here in Rowan County.
Well, and I understand that, but at the same time, I think you're misrepresenting a lot of the facts.
I tell it like it is. I tell it like
No,
I
you're
see it.
not.
I
You're
tell
telling it like
it's
you
reported.
want it to be told. You're not telling it like it is.
I am telling it like it is. Did I just not tell you why couldn't you take that money and keep those officers in the school? Why do you have to remove them?
First of all, you don't know why.
He made it clear during the last campaign, he said finances. He don't have the money to pay them.
Well, that's good.
But he had the money to keep them doing a different job in our courts.
He has the resources at his discretion. Evidently, he felt like these officers were more important doing other things for the 138,000 people that we have to serve, rather than the school children that resource officers, in my opinion, in the lower levels are wasting money because they're not accomplishing anything. We don't have them where they need to be. Just like the ones that they made the big hoopla about over here in China Grove the other day, where they're putting all these resource officers in the middle school. That's not where our problems are.
Excuse me, I'm a middle school teacher and I disagree. The resource officers are very, very important in the schools.
Well, that's your opinion. In 2 years, when that grant goes away, I guess you don't want the county commissioner to pay for that.
Well, that's what Sheriff Orton's going to want you to do, is pay for it.
No, he's not. He's going to tell us just like he did before. The funding's over, we're going to pull them out. We had that discussion before.
So when the funding's over, he's going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 deputies and fire them. Or is he going to take them in a department and pay him a salary to keep them employed?
I don't know what he's going to do. That'll be his decision.
I think it's open and closed. You could have kept those deputies in that school protecting those children. There's no reason why they had to come out, period. No reason.
Well, let me ask you
And I
this.
can back up anything I
Let me
say.
ask you this. What happened when they were gone? Did anything happen in those schools? No.
Yeah, drugs went up. Weapons on campuses went
They don't
up.
sell drugs.
Knives
in
went
school,
up.
They sell them outside.
Pills went up.
Excuse me.
No, they sell them in the schools where you're wrong.
They are in the schools. They are in the schools. Weapons are
So
in the
they grow
schools.
marijuana in the schools and they make crack cocaine in
No,
schools.
it comes into the schools.
Exactly,
It goes down where the resource officers are there. It goes down when the resource officers are there, the behaviors go down when the resource officer is there. The resource officers need to be in the schools. And the school is a different environment when the resource officers are there, and it's easy, the teachers can teach easily because the discipline goes
Then
down.
why don't you go to your school board and tell them they need to fund it? Why don't you go to your state legislature and tell them to fund it, quit making the county fund it?
I'm not asking the county to fund them, but what he's saying is that he can put them in with the budget he has. So he,
Well, I haven't seen it yet.
so give the man an opportunity to show it, and if it doesn't work, then you vote him out again.
I don't have 4 years for him to make a mistake.
I'll tell you what, I'll do one better than that. You draw up a contract, I'll sign it. If I can't get it done, I'll step down. How's that?
State law says you do that.
If I want to step down, the state law will let me step down. It's in black and
Yeah,
white.
but the state law doesn't allow the county commissioner to sign a contract.
So we'll do it privately. We'll have our own little thing. If I can't get it done, I leave.
So in other words, you're gonna break the law.
No, I'm just saying, just for an argument's sake.
State law doesn't.
Just for an
allow it.
argument's sake. Because you're over here giving me an argument's sake saying, well, no, we did this because of this, and you're wrong. You're saying our kids ain't important, that we should have them in our schools? Kids are getting shot in our schools every
See, there
day.
you go again. You're making
Do you want to wait till
mistakes.
somebody walks in our school and riddles our kids?
See where I said our kids aren't important. I did not make that statement, but you did.
Well, she heard you too.
Did I say our kids weren't important?
You didn't say that.
No, I didn't, but you said that.
But you're taking it into the same context. You're bringing it into the same thing. By not having our kids protected and you taking them away, that's like saying our kids ain't important.
There was a kid shot at North Rowan. If there'd been a resource officer, that wouldn't have happened.
Anyway, gang, let's move along
You got
here.
shot at Salisbury High School too.
Anybody got any more questions? Anybody? Nothing? Well, thanks everyone. You go to my website, KiwaForSheriff.com. Give me a call at home. I'll answer any questions you want. Stop by my house anytime you like. I'll try to help you with anything that's going on. If you want cards, I got them up here. Signs are in the truck.
Okay, we have one more person. Mrs. Yan.
I don't know whether I want to stand up here or not.
Craig's gonna start arguing in a second.
Somebody dad him. Actually, I'm excited to be here, and I hope that since my opponents in the primary are here, that you know that I'm the clerk of court, right? That could very well be true. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Sandy Yan, and I'm running for the Office of Corporate Superior Court in Rowan County. I was born in Rowan County. I graduated from Salisbury High School, and I attended Rowan Cabarrus Community College.
Sandy, can you speak up?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay.
Speak a little louder.
Okay, I'm yelling because I can do that. You know, you can put me in a parade and I'll yell, "Vote Republican!" like that, just as good.
That's better.
I'll do that. Anyway, I've had 12 years of 12 years of employment at Navant in Faith, where I am a patient service coordinator. I'm a member of got me going now. I'm a member of the Republican Party. I don't know what I'm saying right now. I'm nervous, okay? I'm a member of First United Methodist Church and a volunteer in the community. Today, like I said before, I'm a candidate for the Office of Clerk of Superior Court. In the past, I have been with Crescent Republican Women, where I was president for over 4 years. I've been in more parades and meetings and Republican meetings, and been shoulder to shoulder with many of the candidates that have been involved in election processes before. I've been a past member of the NC State Republican Party Executive Committee. Much of my experience is in the medical field, and you can say, well, what's that got to do with the clerk of court? Well, in the medical field, you come in and you pay your co-pays and you pay for procedures, and in the clerk of court, of course, you pay for the different fines and fees there. We have records, and we keep records in the medical field, and we also do that you know, of course, in the clerk of court, they have records. We have laws that we abide by. Thanks to Obama, we have more laws that we can shake a stick at as far as insurance and that sort of thing. So in the clerk of court, you have the law of the land. So there are a lot of similarities between that and, you know, the job that I do now and what I will be a part of in the clerk of court. As clerk of court, I will ensure the public's trust in our local court system. And I want to hold each member of our staff above reproach. If there's a problem, I want to know what it is, and I want to stand with them and empower, you know, the employees and encourage them. And I pledge to you that all the citizens of Rowan County, that I will conduct the affairs of the clerk of court's office so as to never betray your trust. I have experience from being manager of offices in the past, and so I have that experience that I can give them the leadership that they need. And the only reason I'm nervous is because I'm in front of people. But anyway, forgive me for that, and I really appreciate y'all allowing me to stand up and speak. And I promise that I'm going to be first next time, so that I won't tie up your time. And I just ask that you vote for me and think of me as clerk of court. Thank you.
Well, that appears to be it. I thank you all for coming out. Thank you for all coming out. See you the next first Saturday. We had some fun today. Some nice discussions.